Hey,
Hey.
it's 6 o'clock. It is time.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm wonderful. Look, we got a little bit of feedback, but it is what it is. We got to get things
On
going
my end or your end? You want me to
on
turn?
my end.
Oh, okay, okay.
It's all to the hood. How are you?
Good. 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 Busy but good.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to have this conversation. We're going to play some music first. We're going to play a video, and then we're going to do some introductions. We're going to talk about our mission and everything that we're doing. And we'll be right back to you. So I'm Keith. Well, you're Kisa.
You could be Kisa too.
You're Kisa. I'm Shariq LeMay. We're just going to play this quick video as we wait for people to kind of come in and get going. And we'll see you guys in a second.
What happened to grandmother's house?
The neighborhoods do need beautification. There's nothing wrong with that. But there is something wrong when it can only be done by outside people that don't look like us.
You know, you have these large corporations, hedge funds, buying not just blocks, but just whole communities at this point to create forever renters.
And the same people that sell in the house aren't the same people buying the house.
Homes were for people. For our grandmother's generation, they were not for investment. Homes are no longer for people. People buy homes now for profit.
The technical word gentrification is not necessarily a bad thing. It's the colonization that we have problems with.
Gentrify your hood before those people do it.
If you talk about it, you won't hear about it. If you talk about it, that's all they do about it.
All right. I think we lost Kisa for a second, but welcome to the Block Party. Hey, KS Consulting. Hey. How are you?
Hey.
So, thank you all for being here. For those of you that are tuning in, both on our Instagram as well as on our Kickstarter page, we love you for being here. We love you for the support. And I cannot be more excited about this project, even though it's kind of a sad situation. I'm excited about what we're doing to kind of shift the narrative and get things moving in the right direction. So without further ado, again, this is the Block Party. This is Stop Selling Grandma's House. I'm Shariq LeMay, and I have my partner in not crime, because we kill crime. We make everything work.
Good crime.
Good crime. Good trouble is what we'll call it. Yeah. Miss Kisa on the line. So Kisa, tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do.
So don't mind me, y'all. So basically, I have a consulting agency. I'm CEO and founder of KS Consulting Inc. We are a creative marketing firm, and we specialize in small business development, small business marketing, finance. And right now, this is basically my first production. Shariq is like really showing me the ropes. I just really believe in the concept and basically we both have a story that we wanted to tell. And so Shariq came up with this amazing idea. We so happen to have family like on the same street kind of thing before we even met. So for me, I'm honored. I'm elated to be a part of the project. And I know the best is yet to come. So yeah, I guess KS Productions loading.
Which is a good thing. It's a good thing to be a jack of many trades and have a lot of different things going. But I'm Shariq LeMay, and this is, like I said, this is a labor of love. This project, Stop Selling Grandma's House, which is a documentary that we're turning into a docuseries at some point down the line. It's really a place for solutions and resolution, because we want there to be answers in terms of where do people go for resources if they don't want to sell their family legacy home. It doesn't have to be just grandma's house. It could be your auntie's house, your uncle's house, just something, a place that we call a place of refuge, a place of peace and love, with great memories and with a foundational opportunity for you to grow generational wealth. So it's a labor of love. I keep saying it. It's not about me. It's not about Kisa. It's not about anybody else other than us really just focusing on providing solutions for our people. It's important, right, Keys?
Mhm.
Go ahead.
Coming up with solutions to, and it's not, it's a problem, but it's a problem that I feel like being resolved.
Highlighted.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. So for me, I actually started this project a few years ago, noticing different trends within my community, originally being from the Bay Area, East Bay Area, Berkeley, Oakland, and just seeing so many of the homes that were the foundation within our neighborhoods being sold off to people that don't look like me or look like my family. And I'm like, this is a problem, because what they would do is they would take these homes, flip them, sell them to another family that doesn't look like me. And it just really changes the construct of what it is that our community originally sought out to do. As you know, specifically here in California, a lot of Black families migrated from the South in refuge in order to find work, in order to claim land, in order to thrive and have better opportunities for themselves and for their families. And being able to purchase land was a huge deal. Being able to have property was just a major conquest for our ancestors. And that's not even that long ago, like our great grandparents and grandparents, you know what I mean? So for it to now be dwindling slowly, and what I mean by dwindling is not having these foundational homes anymore. It's starting to be heartbreaking for me. It had become heartbreaking for me up until the point that it really started to hit home. Funny story, Kisa and I met 10 or so more years ago, something like that.
I think like we made it launched in
2015, 16. So yeah, it's been a minute nonetheless, but we didn't know until later on, having conversation, that her grandfather's home was on the same street as one of my grandmother's homes on my mother's side, which we were displaced from, is what I would say. And the exact same street, I want to say even the same block.
Yeah, house is down.
Yeah, and I remember your grandfather's house, and I just remember that conversation and you telling me like, oh my God, my grandpa's house, they're getting ready to sell it, or you were saying it was on Stewart Street. I'm like, Stewart Street?
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Stewart Street. I'm pretty sure if you you should know about Stewart Street.
Right. And then you were like, yeah, he used to have the hedges with the champagne bottles. And I'm like, wait, what? I know that house. I used to wave at your grandfather because I was just so enamored with his hedges. And that just hit me. It hits home, right? It just hits home. And it broke my heart even more, because I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I grew up in that house, literally. We used to walk around and go to the TV house. You remember the TV house?
Mm-hmm.
Still there.
Yeah, definitely. So it's hard. It's really hard to think that we don't have those places that we can take our children and our grandchildren to later on in life. And of course, we're going to build our own wealth, but we're struggling to do so in this economy, nonetheless. But it's just one of those things that we have to find solace in and band together. And it's not fair, to be completely honest. It's not fair.
We're rooted in the struggle, though. So we'll be looking back at this. This is a timepiece. We're doing it so that way we can show people how to build, how to really go hard for whatever it is you believe in. It doesn't matter, what it is, and to be able to provide solutions. There's an education piece to this that is going to be, like I said, we're shifting the culture with this. I mean that. It's going to be a reference point that's going to be able to live forever.
Right. So if you're asking why we're doing this, why is it called a Stream-A-Thon? You guys remember the old school telethons from back in the day? You remember the telethon?
70s, 80s, baby, you should know. 90s, not so much. But
on the telethon. So if you see we have a Kickstarter, and everything is just going the way it's supposed to go. And hold on one second.
Pledge, y'all. So we're going to be doing every week for the next 50 days.
Yes, for the next 50 days. We're trying to raise money, so make sure you're heading over to lemayday.com/ SSGH, or the link that's down below. Go over there, pledge your support. We do not get the money unless we hit our goal. So there's accountability with this particular site. This isn't your GoFundMe. This isn't your whatever other platform that takes the money and run. No, they're holding us accountable to complete this project. We've already started this project. We've had some great people come on to our to interview that want to talk about this from all ages, all demographics, East Coast, West Coast, down south. And we really just use your support. Tell a friend. All we need is what, $30 per person? Yes.
Yep, 35. You know, that's meals cost more than that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
meals cost more than that.
Yeah, so make sure you guys are pledging. I know this thing says pled. This should say pledge. Make sure you're pledging your support at lamede.com. Stop Selling Grandma's House, the initials. Or you can go down to the Kickstarter. We've been blasting it everywhere, you guys. So please support. Tell your friend, and tell another friend. And we're going to keep it rolling like that. So we appreciate the love and support. So, KS, when did you know that this was something that you wanted to do when we talked about it? Because it kind of was a joint aha moment that we had. And I'm like, we need to talk about this. This is a conversation that needs to be had.
Oh, man. Before I met you. You just really pulled it out. I mean, this is something always, like you said, growing up, especially in the Bay Area. I'm San Francisco by way of Fairfield suburbs. So just growing up seeing, it's like an accolade, to be able to have any type of property in California, especially right now. It's imperative to hold on to it. It doesn't matter how ransacked it is, what it looks like, it's there's definitely value in that, like literally. So growing up, we didn't really see home ownership. At least I didn't. I had a few aunties who own property and we have a home house, but all in all, I never really knew what home ownership looked like really until my 30s. And then going through that process just last year on my own, I'm fired up now. I'm like, I don't see why more.
Congratulations to you.
Thanks. But we don't own until we own the land. Let's clear a whole nother telethon. We'll get on that. We'll touch on that within the span of the next 50 days. But it's just about owning your land. So that way you can be able to maximize and then, pass it down. So I see the importance of that now. And it's cool. I always tell people, I've been on the planet over 25 years now. And it's cool to see, my generation, the generations under me really being fired up and empowered to want to learn how to gain assets and hold on to them. You know what I mean? So I guess to answer that, it's really been like my whole life, because I remember being young and I didn't like moving.
Yeah.
I stand there. I used to be like, when I get older, first house I buy, that's the house. You know what I mean? Right. So it was still to me young. Like I just knew I didn't want to move around a lot and I wanted to just be stationary. From seeing my grandparents, you know what I mean? Like the house on Stewart Street, I literally grew up in that house. The house is older than me. So, to see it no longer in the family is just like a whole. Yeah. It's gut wrenching to say the least. So,
same thing for me. It was something that I had been noticing. What hit the hardest was a few years ago when my great-grandmother's home was sold, which I talk about in the sizzle. Make sure you guys check it out. We'll play it towards the end. And it was kind of done underneath the nose of my grandmother. I think we lost Keith briefly. I'm not sure what happened. But and when that happened, I talk about it in the sizzle. I was actually sitting next to my grandmother, who I know loves that house, and she was just heartbroken. And it was a lot of what happened? Oh, and it just was a lot of history and generational, just different things that we have that we no longer have in the family anymore. I actually grew up in that house with my dad, and I was probably one of the few cousins, I can't say the only, one of the few cousins that spent a lot of time with my great grandmother. And it's just been rough not being able to go to that house not being able to see the future based upon what it is that we had set in stone for our family. And it was a lot of land. It was a lot of property on land. Like we could have flipped it. We could have made it, student housing for Cal Berkeley. Like, you know how much it costs for a house in Berkeley, bro? Like, and that just was saw all the possibilities just dwindle away, and it was heartbreaking. Same thing for being displaced from the other home where my family lived in Oakland, and knowing that house will never be ours, we'll never be able to go back there again. And that was pretty rough. So I've gone through this a multitude of times, even from being a little girl and living someplace where the owner sold it. My mom and my dad were renting it, and when the owner sold it, they pretty much evicted us. And I love that place. So there's just so many different scenarios, and I think I've been through all of them. So I really understand the importance of home ownership. I understand the importance of creating stability for your children, for the generations and generations to come. And for me, now as a millennial, in this economy, I'm 30-something years old, and it's extremely difficult for me to buy, especially where I come from. It's hard for me to purchase in California. I'm a Cali girl through and through. I don't want to buy nowhere else. And certainly not nowhere near where I live, where I live and I commune in my community. So, that's another thing. And so many people are moving out, even in the Bay Area. I don't think I have a single relative in Berkeley anymore. But people are moving out to rich, Modesto and this place and that place, super, super far. And people have to commute. And then you think about gas. And it's just so many different elements of this that this is affecting. And it's a problem. It's an epidemic. So that's
it is. But like I said, I feel like now we're more empowered as a people.
Yeah.
To, shout out to Earn Your Leisure. They're instrumental. Sleepers for Suckers. I can go on and on and on. These are resources and people that I have gravitated to over the last few years that I've learned a lot from. In addition to research and just doing your own homework and going through the process. You know what I mean? There's nothing like going through the process yourself. And I agree. I feel like I've definitely, if not went through, and I guess it is going through it, even if it's somebody attached to you and you're like, in it, I guess it is going through it as well. But I feel like I've been through kind of everything too. I've, dealt with homeowners who have wanted to sell, last minute to, being in jeopardy of being evicted. Like, so for me, like I said, young, I was like, oh no, like, wait.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a time where one of my aunts, she was devastated because the same thing, the owner was selling the property and she had been there for like over 10 years. The owner just told her flat out, like, look, I have to sell. And whole thing, but she was like devastated, and she tried to purchase the home, but she just didn't have the qualifications to do so. So her go through that young, and then she had children. It was just like, oh. But then I have another aunt who bought in California. Name I won't say because it's probably on here, but they're actually, it's our compound. We call it the compound to this day because she purchased it, for the low, and it's not worth a pretty penny. But she's now left it to her grandchildren and her child, and then her sons, and then she purchased another home. So watching her even do that, she doesn't even know. She might be watching from another country, but if you're watching this, you know who you are, and I've always been inspired by you. So she was like one of the first. And then even my own grandmother never. We used to be like, I don't want it. And she used to be like, I just don't. Some people just don't want the burden, but it's really, to me, it's more of a to do being a renter.
There's pros and cons. Yeah, there's definitely pros and cons. I know a lot of people want to live the nomadic life, and there's studies that have been releasing. In some instances, it may be better to be a renter because there's less of an obligation. Sometimes when you buy a home, I understand there's obligation to that land. You may not be able to just get up and move and leave whenever you want to because you got to sell the house. You still got to pay your mortgage, or there's so many different factors. So when we're saying stop selling grandma's house, a lot of it has to do with stop selling it to people that are outside of us, outside of our community, that aren't coming in to love on the community. Because in some instances, you might just it might be the best option for you if you have no other recourse. But if you can, and if you have other people that maybe you can just have come and rent, there's always income opportunity that can be put in forth for you. There's just so many different solutions. So I don't want to tell people, oh, it's the absolute worst thing in the world, you shouldn't sell grandma's house. I mean, there's many reasons why I say it is, but there's different reasons for everything. So we're not trying to bash people. We're not trying to talk bad about people. We understand everybody's situation is different, but we also want to be a place of resource and recourse for people who don't want to. Because look, all the history, Big Mama's house, like, come on now.
Hello. Yes. For me, it's just about leveraging that, right? So at the end of the day, even if you do decide you don't want to be in the home, there's so many options, which we're learning now at a rapid rate, on how you can keep the home and be able to leverage the home and use it as an actual asset. There's so many options.
Yes, so we have some definitions and stuff too that we want to go over. We're not trying to be too preachy or so forth. But within the documentary, we're going to be breaking down a lot of these key terms. The first one is gentrification. I'll put in quotation marks because we're learning some things about gentrification and the actual terminology. But gentrification is the process whereby the character of a poor urban area is changed by wealthier people moving in, improving housing and attracting new business, typically displacing, there's that word, current inhabitants in the process. So, Keith, I know you have something to say about that.
Well, I don't know. I'm just infatuated with the whole gentrification, colonization analogy because, and shout out to, Rashad, who's really been bringing this to the forefront. He had a guest who, I will have the name by next week.
Rashad from Earn Your Leisure.
Right, but he had a guest on the show, and this is where this beautiful syncopation of the two came from. I remember when the episode, a lot of times I'll just let it just play, and so I was headed upstairs, and all I heard was, "Oh, it's not necessarily gentrification; it's actually colonization." I was like, "Okay." So basically, the notion is that, and that is. Gentrification is not necessarily a bad thing. It has this bad stigma around it because in our communities, we're like, oh, here comes a Chipotle, here comes a Whole Foods, here comes a Trader Joe's. And it's the I'll say associations, the corporations that are doing this is what's causing these stigmas because in turn with that, they're buying the land or they're cashing us out to, to leave so they can then build these entities. But with that, is colonization. That's colonies that are doing this, and we can be those colonies to be able to gentrify our own communities. Which you see people like T.I., Killer Mike. I think I told you the other day, T.I. literally bought the block that Trap Museum sits on, and that's gentrification. You know what I mean? Yeah. Actually making your community better, improving it, and then delving into what that looks like. So I think, like I said, we're starting to see it more and more. But we need to be mindful and also know that gentrification is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just the people we see doing it and the way it's happening is what makes it feel bad, but it's not. It's a beautiful thing.
You said it perfectly. It's about like who's doing the gentrifying. This is a very specific definition, but the overall definition of gentrification is going in and improving the neighborhood, fixing the potholes in the street, making the hedges look nice, fixing up, just making beautifying the neighborhood, which I think a lot of people are trying to do. I see it doing very well in the Lamert area. I see Lamert looking really nice. There's different pockets of urban areas that are doing well, and it looks beautiful. Whenever I go to Oakland and I go to West Oakland, which I used to never go to, by the way, and you see Mandela Parkway, it looks beautiful. But then all of a sudden you turn your head and you see a lady that don't look like us walking her dog down the street.
Right.
Many of them, which I'm okay with. But I think to myself, okay, for her to get here, who had to get pushed out? Who got displaced?
Right.
In her place is what immediately runs through my mind. Not that I want the neighborhood to stay dangerous and dirty. That's not what we're saying at all. We want us to be the ones beautifying. We want us to be the ones coming together, making a difference in our own communities and thriving and growing from the soil that we help cultivate.
Exactly.
So there's that.
Exactly.
Historically, for those of you who don't know, there is a term called redlining, which is a discriminatory practice in which services are withheld from potential customers who reside in neighborhoods classified as hazardous to investment. These neighborhoods have significant numbers of racial and ethnic minorities and low-income residents. So basically, what that looks like is if there's a real estate agent or agents that want to sell a particular house or something of that nature, they created these redlining areas as to where no, you can't come over here, or no, you can't buy here. And they made them significantly lower. They devalued the property, and they say it's hazardous and no one wants it, and they deem it unworthy. And then what they end up doing later on is coming in and swooping it up and gentrifying it and selling it for more money later on. So it's really unfortunate that this happens. But we want people to know the terms. There's other terms that we're going to be covering within this documentary and within the series that we want people to be aware of and be cautious of. And don't think that these things don't happen still today. There's still a lot of discriminatory practices that are done within the housing market, even for renters, that we have to put it into. And we're going to just be putting a light on all of this. But nonetheless, I think we got a special guest that's about to come up. I'm really excited to have him come and talk. And when I bumped into him, I was like, oh my God, you are the perfect person that needs to talk about this, because you literally are the exemption of, you exemplify what it means to be a leader in the community and just everything he's gone through. We're going to let him talk because I know he wants to talk about this issue. I'm going to bring up Councilman of the city of Compton, Andre Spicer.
Hey.
So,
yes,
can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. What's going on, y'all? Yes.
Hi.
How are you ladies doing, man? It is good seeing y'all.
Good to see you too. Congrats. I feel like I haven't seen you in forever.
It's been a while.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, just thank you for coming on and talking with us. Like I was saying, you're just an amazing person. I've been following your track record and your career since Hub City Radio, that's where I first met you.
That's something else.
You are so committed to the city of Compton and to your people. I can't thank you enough for being just a shining example of that, and for wanting to partner with us to help put the word out about us not selling our legacy. So when you hear the term "stop selling grandma's house," what does that immediately do for you?
Man, you don't even understand. Like when you first mentioned that to me at on Saturday at the is there a way we can turn down the background music?
Yeah, we turning it down.
And we turn
There we go.
Yeah. When you mentioned it to me at the Taste of Soul, and you said, stop selling grandma's house. I mean, like so many things went off in my head because I literally have seen communities turn over from the passing of someone's mom or grandmother, and you literally see the community change because for various reasons, and we're going to get into it, but the community change is so fast as soon as grandma dies, and for us, I'll just say in Compton, man, like there's a generation, the first generation that got here. If you guys don't know, Compton was all white at one point in time. So we had white flight. So we had our grandparents that were the first Black people that were able to buy property here in Compton, and this was a suburban area at the time. So you got all these Black families coming in, and they finally get a house. And at this time, Black people weren't even able to buy houses. You know what I mean? There were like red lines to where certain areas you couldn't even live in as a Black person. And this was one of those areas. So then they got here, they got a chance to live in a suburban life. And over time, it was white flight, so the white people left, and you started getting more Black and brown families in. And now, as those people are passing on now, because again, those are my grandparents, and my grandmother is 92 years old now. She was the first Black person. She was the first Black person on her block. My grandfather bought his house in Santa Monica and physically moved the house to Compton.
Wow.
And so, like, they were the first ones.
Not to cut you off, I'm sorry. I need you to elaborate on that. So does he still own the home in Santa Monica, or did he sell?
No, move the house. So they saw the house. It was a very nice house in Santa Monica. They bought it, picked it up, moved it to Compton, moved it to Richland Farm area in Compton. They bought a half-acre of land in Richland Farms, and it's the same house my grandmother's living in today. Um, so they they literally moved the house over there, and they were the first Black people on their block. So this just kind of goes into the history of how Black people got here in this space and how things are kind of on the verge of changing, right? Because now that we're in this space now that grandma bought the house, and at the time that grandma bought the house, excuse me guys, at the time that grandma bought the house, she didn't buy it as an investment. She bought it as a home for her family. She wasn't thinking, okay, this is going to appreciate. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. It was literally for the family. And grandma, grandpa, I want to just say grandma, but grandpa too. And now, fast forward, we didn't really learn about financial literacy. We didn't learn about credit. We didn't learn about how to utilize property to our advantage. So those children, their children, their grandchildren, that information wasn't necessarily passed down to them. So now, when grandma's gone, and you got 5, 6, 7 siblings, and everybody has their own agenda, not sure what they want to do, or might be financially, in a situation where they need some quick cash. We get to the point to where we're ready to sell the property because for whatever reason we live in a nice apartment and we don't need the property. You know what I'm saying? The house is wore down, and I like to live in this full service apartment complex and all these different things, and we're not realizing the value of the home. So now we're seeing those same families, as soon as they get a chance, they get a chance to put 400,000. And you tell the person you can put $300,000 in your pocket that got $20 in their bank,
right?
Then you can't even get through to that person,
right?
You know what I mean? And this comes back down to financial responsibilities and just managing your money correctly. A lot of times we wouldn't be so quick to sell if we managed our money a little bit better. You know what I mean? So, and I don't want to get into something else, but as far as
my dad commented real quick, he said, "Move the house, great idea."
I've never even heard. I'm literally sitting here, it's like itching to be like, "How?" That's a whole other episode because I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah, man, when they told me that, I was floored at that. I'm like, yo, how did he do that? And
like literally lifted it from the soil and
physically lifted it from the soil and took it to another location.
He did what he had to do.
And I've seen it, on freeways where you see like those big wide loads, they're bringing houses through. Yeah, I see that today, but I'm like, dude, how did you do that in 1960? You know what I mean? Like, what was that? Was it 60? Right. I think it was 60 or 58, somewhere around there. But in any event, that is a great idea, right? Just buy a house somewhere and move it on over.
I have a question for you, Dre, really brief, really quick, because this is every topic that we're touching on is a segue into a whole nother plethora of I won't say issues, but ideas and concepts that we're going to be talking about going forward in the next coming weeks. But Compton is a heavily redlined area. So what does that look like now currently? And do you feel like it's still an area that's victimized by redlining, or do you feel like it just is what it is? Because no,
the redlining thing is completely over with at this point. Right. Like everybody's living all over the place right now. So, but if you want more details on that, there's a a TV series called Them, Them,
Okay.
Them, and it's on Amazon Prime. It is all about Compton. It's white
Mm,
Compton. It's right where we had white flight. So it's a story about the first black family that moved to white Compton and how they
mhm,
were treated. And it's more of a, it's kind of horror, kind of creepy, kind of a thing, but it's
mhm.
based in such, it's so much Compton history and facts. Like it's like
It's crazy.
right on.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's dead on. But
yes,
I'm glad you guys are doing like having these conversations, man, because
yeah.
like my grandmother, like she's 92. So Lord willing, she'll be here to 192.
Shout out
But
to
we
her, man. That's a
but
blessing.
but but we know that that's not the reality of things.
Mhm.
So we're having that same issue in my family where like I'm having those conversations like, yo, what we gonna do? Like, what's the plan?
Right.
Because my grandmother, and this might be too much information, but my grandmother had got a reverse mortgage on her house.
A lot
Hmm.
of grannies do.
So
Hmm.
we're gonna have to save that if that's what we
Right.
want to do,
Yeah.
and it's how we're gonna do it and the importance of saving it.
Hmm.
Um, and again, have just valuing what we have, valuing the things that our family members have purchased for the sake of the family.
Yeah.
Again, they did it for the family. We want it for the family, but we also understand the financial benefits in
Hmm.
having and owning property.
Right. That's what I was just
Um,
saying. Yeah. How do
uh,
you feel about and my grandfather was that's why it was even more so just hard to just watch the process because he sat us down like
mhm,
he sat us down was like listen when I perish from this earth this is how the irrevocable trust is set up meaning nobody can touch it until I am no longer here. This is how it's set up. This is whom gets what. And so I'll just be fully transparent. And they know. My uncle was raised in the home. My aunt was raised in the home. They lived in the home, and it just got to a point where they just felt like they couldn't keep it up. Um,
mhm,
and I'm like, oh, if I knew then what I knew now, I'm like, can we just Airbnb? Can we just put some students in there? But my granddad was definitive. Like, listen, he didn't really say like, do what you gotta do to keep the home, but that was the notion. We watched him renovate the
mhm.
home. We watched, like Sharik said earlier, I don't know if you caught that part of it. My grandfather's house was known for having the way his hedges were cut. So he had like 2 cocktail glasses and like a chair, right? Sharik, like you would
Okay.
have because
It
she
was a bottle. It was a bottle in, in 2
so when I met Sharik in LA, her aunt, your great aunt or your aunt?
my great grandmother.
So her great grandmother lived like 3, 4 houses down from my grandfather, and we never knew for years. So we
Hmm.
met each other, and then we kind of just started talking about. She's like, "Oh yeah, your granddad's house was the one with the cocktail," and I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "I remember," and he did. He used to be like on his porch chilling. Everybody knew Mr. Sullivan. So nonetheless, how have you guys had that conversation in your family with your grandmother being that she's the owner of that asset?
Yeah. So we've had that conversation in my family, and honestly, just to be,
It's tough. I know.
it's a tough conversation to have. I don't quite like the conversation and where it's going. I'm glad that we are having the conversations now and not waiting until my grandmother, transitions.
Mm-hmm.
And she's healthy. We're not expecting her to transition today or anything like
Hmm.
that, but we know that at 92 years old, it's going to happen. So it's like, yo, let's have these conversations now.
Hmm.
And don't wait till she's 92. We should have had this conversation at
Hello.
72. We
Trying to
should have had it at 52.
Yeah.
Um, so
seriously.
let's not wait till let's be more proactive versus reactive.
Hmm.
That's the goal. But so are we having the conversation more? Yes, we're having the conversation more. We're trying to figure out how and what to do. Some people seem to be interested. Most people aren't. Um, and again, once you start talking about reverse mortgages and different things like that, now you're talking about a different level of finance.
Yeah.
Uh,
Right.
Lord willing that the house is in pristine condition and you don't have to
Hmm.
renovate and get new
Yeah.
plumbing and new electricity and blase and a
Mhm.
new roof and all that stuff. Like if you just have to add that on top of a reverse mortgage, it can be intimidating. It can
Right.
be Yeah, it can be very intimidating. So then the question is, well, like you said, Kisa, what can we do to maintain it? Now there's things like Airbnb. There's things like there's all kind of different programs that you can do now
Mhm.
to bring in revenue for property and property value. You just have to be in the mindset of wanting to find those resources.
Right.
Um,
Right.
you gotta have your family on the same page.
Hmm.
I don't feel like us as Black people. I don't feel like we have healthy conversations, constructive conversations, enough constructive
Yeah.
conversations.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we really want to dig into too, is just kind of getting over the mental health aspect of it, the PTSD, the trauma.
Hmm.
There's a multitude of reasons. I don't want to blame everything on our, our historical colonization, and I'm not calling us victims to a certain extent, but that's also something that we definitely want to talk about, because there's things we don't talk about as Black people, especially with our
Hmm.
elders, especially with that what we call the silent generation. Our
Hmm.
Hmm.
grandparents were of the silent generation. They were taught through systemic racism and oppression to be quiet, and the reason to be quiet was to protect your own. And now we're
Hmm.
realizing now that there's so much access to so much information in the world that that's not necessarily the best way to do it, because while you're thinking you're protecting, you're actually putting us in harm's way, or you're not arming us with the proper information that we need in order to fight these battles. So that's definitely a piece, and I commend you for being transparent. I think
Hmm.
transparency is really
Appreciate it.
need all across the board.
Yeah, nah, I mean, I think that's the only way we're going to grow. Because if I sit here and hide all the things that, all my struggles, all the things that I struggle with, it might it seem like this ride has been perfect. Like everything's been laid out, and that's the furthest thing from the truth. You know what I mean? So we gotta be transparent. We gotta be vulnerable
Mm,
if we want to see change. Because you guys have gone through things that somebody else is going to go through, and
Mm.
you handled it a particular way, whether that be for the better or for the worse. But that's information for the next person
Right.
to make an informed decision. And sometimes it's just on us to do just that. You know, sometimes we're just a catalyst.
Right.
Um, and yeah, man, I'm literally watching. But going back to the topic, I'm literally watching these communities change.
Yeah.
Um, like my grandmother's street, I used to know everybody on the block,
Yeah.
everybody. But then all her friends start passing,
Yeah.
mhm.
and then when
Yeah.
they start passing, the family like, we
Yeah.
all I didn't
Yeah.
like my sister no way. I
I
didn't
know.
like.
I know.
So let me ask you this: as a councilman, what are some of the initiatives that you're trying to work on, or that you want to bring forth to the table in order to minimize the effects of gentrification, is what we're calling it. It's also colonization. To minimize those effects, or to better educate the people of your community as to different ways in which they don't have to be subjected to having to sell and get rid of their legacy property.
So let's first talk about resources.
Hmm.
We need to get resources to our community for the people that are in a situation where they're about to lose a house, for the people that's in a situation where they just need help maintaining a location or whatever that might be. There's a company in our city. It's called NHS, and you
Yes.
got a chance to meet them the at the event on Saturday. They have so many programs that's geared towards things just like this. You know what I'm saying? And maintaining property in our community and in our neighborhood. That's the first thing, is getting the information out to our community and those resources out. Second thing is this: we understand that I'll speak for Compton because you said it's Compton councilman here.
Hmm.
Co- the
Mhm.
the property the property in value, guys. The property value is going up,
Mm.
and it don't matter how ran down, how bummy, how trashy, how whatever the city is. This property value is going up. At this point, you need at least $600,000 to purchase
Mm.
property here in Compton.
Right.
That's bare,
Yeah.
on a average scale. So
Yeah.
the thing is, every this is the hub city, and it's called the hub city because by definition, hub means center of activity. The reason why Compton is the hub city is because it sits in the middle of all the freeways, the 110, the 710, the 105, the 91. It's
Never knew.
also it also sits in between all the cities. If you go next door, you can get in Watts. If you go the other way, you get in Long Beach. If you go the other way, you're in Carson. If you go the other way, you're in Linwood. If you go the other way, you're in Gardena. If you go the other way, you're in LA. We're connected to everything.
Mm,
So this property, this where we're at is valued.
yeah.
Um, Now, with that, you know that people want to gentrify it.
Mhm.
Now, understand that any area of value is going to be gentrified, regardless. Now, the question is who is going to gentrify that location?
Right.
Are you going to let other people come in and gentrify it, or are you going to gentrify it yourself? So when you're selling grandma's house, you're allowing other people to come in and gentrify. Um, when we when we get complacent in our finances, because again, property value is going up, that don't your income might need to come up. You might the what you used to purchase a house 20 years ago, it might be a little different today. It might be another different in another 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
So we have to provide our community opportunities to increase their revenue, um, with using their property, if you will, by using their property. I'll give you an example. I'm looking to I have a plan for my home. I have a homelessness plan, and in that
Mm,
homelessness plan, um, we get to address a demographic of homelessness. Now we know that there's mental health homeless, there's drug abusers, there's reentry homeless. Um, but for me, and the reentry are the people that are coming home from jail.
right.
Um, for me, the my passion and where my heart is foster youth. So
Mm,
the people that term out of foster care at 17, 18 years old that don't have anywhere else to go, they
Mhm.
typically go to the street. And those people have the most energy and they're going to figure it out one way or the other.
Right.
And that's an opportunity for them to either go right or they go left. So what I would like to do is, and Compton doesn't have any shelters.
mm,
So when you don't have shelters, by definition, you can't, I mean, by law, you can't make it illegal to live on the street. So
Mm.
um, now, if I can, and we don't have any shelters, but everybody wants shelters, but don't nobody want it in their backyard, right? So like, we want one, just don't put it next to me. So if I could make, if I can get a shelter in your neighborhood, and I can make it an investment opportunity for you as a resident
Mm.
for that particular shelter, then it does two things. It it does three things. It helps to clean up your community with the homelessness issue. It also helps to get people's lives back on track. And
Mhm.
then it's an investment opportunity for you. So it actually increases your revenue.
mm,
So instead of you eventually getting bought out or being not not being able to afford to live in that particular house or location, now we're providing opportunities for you to make an investment. I'm not asking you to go out and work an extra 40 hours a week. We're giving you an opportunity to make an investment so that you can improve your community. And that's just one example. There's several ideas out there and several different things that we can do to um, give our community investment opportunities so that they can make more money, so that we can maintain our community. We can
Yeah.
start buying back our block. We can start investing in our own businesses and things like that.
Have
Um,
you already started looking at like what that looks like? Like if you could put a shelter anywhere in Compton right now, where would it be?
oh, I already got it all laid out. Don't play with me. We could.
I want to know though. I know you do. I know. I already
So
know you. Or is
yeah.
that TMI
So
right now? You don't have to give
no,
us all the intel,
no,
but
no, no, no. It's fine. Because I really want, and it's an idea I came up with.
I want
Um, and I'm gonna put it out there. And anybody can take it. That's so when you put ideas out there, people are could possibly take it. I don't mind it because it's gonna benefit the community.
right.
There's a so let's just say we get a plot of land.
mhm,
We all, me and you, we go get this plot of land. It's 5, 6 acres of land. Um, and we put it in a neighborhood. and I tell you, hey, let's go buy these boxables. Have you guys heard of boxables?
Like
Uh,
lunches?
is it like a
All the shelters, the box
tiny home?
shelters.
Like a tiny home?
So
Yeah.
they're tiny homes. So they're tiny homes. They pull them up. They pull up in a truck and they pretty much put them together like Legos.
Yeah.
And they come together in a matter of 10 minutes. They're 20 by 20. They're 9 foot tall. They're fully furnished. They're fire resistant. They're weather resistant. Um,
Mm.
and they cost 50 grand a piece.
Yeah.
So
Containers, right?
$50,000. But they're not containers. Look them up. Check
Okay.
them out. You'll be wowed by them. Boxables.
Box.
No E on the boxable.
All right.
So these boxables are 50 grand a piece. Now, if we got this plot of land in this community and we identify a group of homelessness that we want to help out, foster youth in this case. Now I give everybody in that neighborhood an opportunity to purchase a boxable, and we put them on this land, and we tell people, hey, you can live in this boxable. You can live in your own apartment. We'll furnish it. We'll take care of everything, your food, your shelter, everything. But you have to be involved in our program for the next 2 years. You got to be invested in our program. Now, in our program is complete wraparound services. We're talking AA classes, NA classes, job training, self-defense, cryptocurrency, all these different things, right? Yeah. Complete wraparound services to where they don't have to leave the location. If we can get government to fund each boxable, $2,400, $2,500, whatever the case may be, in 2 years, the boxables are completely paid off. Completely paid off. Everything else after that is a profit.
Yeah.
Now, these people can only stay here for 2 years. So every month, we're going to bank $200 every month for each boxable. We're just going to bank it, put it to the side. Now, at the end of their 2 years, we gave them all the resources that they need. We prepared them for the next stage in life. We give them this $4,800 that we saved up for them, and they get to go and purchase their own apartment. They get to go move on to the next stage in life. It's a transition. So, but things like that, again, it helps to build up it changes the mindset of the community. It helps people get on their feet. It gives people an investment opportunity. And at the end of the day, you're gonna see your crime rates drop, because now you got all these foster youth that are getting all these wraparound services. They are less likely to go out and commit crimes because they have shelter, they have food, they have security, they have all these things. They're going to school, they're getting educated, and now we're getting them ready for the next stage in life. We're talking about changing the community like that. And I don't care who does it and where y'all do it at. You know what I'm saying? Do it all over the country. I want to see this thing, grow.
So that's actually happening in the South, but it's for investment. So you're seeing developers coming in, they're buying these containers from there's actually an African American woman, that's what she specializes in. She started a container construction company. She does everything from the roots to the same thing. 50,000 people are flipping these container homes for 200,000-300,000, and they're putting them on like Edgewood, which is like Melrose. And then
See, that's the problem though, Keisha. Like, although that's a great business opportunity because they get to flip 50,000 to 200,000, but now the people that need that, when you have to pay 200 or 300,000 for something that originally cost 500,000, now you're kind of defeating the purpose of what you did it for to begin with. Does that make sense?
Have you heard of tiny home development? So there's another African American realtor who we're going to have on eventually too, and she just 26 or 29 units, and they all sold for like over 220, right by Tyler Perry, and they're like 300, 400 square feet. I think the biggest one is like 485 square feet. So that's happening here. But your concept of doing that in conjunction with homelessness, how do you maintain that? Like, is there going to be guidelines? Like, because we've seen, and I'll just use, and this might not be the best example, but we've seen projects, right? They start off as these beautiful high rises back when, and then not so much now, but like San Francisco does still have a project area called Sunnydale, but they're doing what they can to like clean it up. But at the end of the day, how do you make sure that the residents maintain that? Because we know that there's pros and cons that come with the residents that are homeless. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So again, you have to address that issue based on the demographic that you're serving. So of course, it's going to be a little more difficult with the mental health as residents. It's going to be a little different for the drug abusers, but you
Yeah.
have to put the resources in your wraparound services to address that. Off top, you need security.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be secure.
Yeah.
So there's three essential things that you need in life to not worry. You need a roof.
Mhm.
You need that shelter. You need security, and you need food. If you have those three things,
It's so logical. I'm like money.
I mean, but those if you have those three things, the you're not as pressed. When we can
Right.
Yeah.
provide those three things, you're not as pressed. Now it gives us a chance to work on the other aspects of you. You can't focus on nothing else about you and self improvement if you're worried about where you're gonna stay. If your stomach is touching your back, if
Mhm.
you're worried about who gonna rob you and who gonna take what you got,
Mhm.
your mind will never rest in a space to where you can grow.
Yeah.
So you have to provide those things first, and then once you get people settled, and once they're settled, you start bringing in those resources. Again, you say how do you make sure you keep it up? Well, we're gonna have security there. You're not gonna just be tearing stuff up because whatever. But then we're also gonna make sure the only way you're gonna stay here is if you're abiding by this program. So if you have mental health issues, you're going to go to those resources. We're providing that resource there for you as well.
Right.
Same thing with the drug abusers.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I would love.
I was going to ask too, sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead.
Is there a world where, because we're talking about, saving legacy homes, is there a world where the community is coming together to try to preserve these homes as options for people who are displaced to be able to commune there? Is there something like that that's a possibility?
Sherry, I'm glad you asked that. That is definitely a whole nother lane as well.
Hmm.
And when we're asking, okay, so how do we maintain these houses? How I really can't afford to take this $800,000 loan out to save this house.
Yeah.
What does it look like? How I'm gonna make money here?
Hmm.
And there are programs where, like right now, there's oh, dang it, where's that flyer at? I got a business card over here. Anyway, it's this company over here, man, that they are looking to rent out homes, apartment buildings, and facilities to place people that have HIV and AIDS.
Mm.
So they told me if you to just find me a location that we can rent out, we'll rent out all the rooms or all the apartments at market value.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And like, so for a person that takes out a $800,000 loan to save grandma's house, and you ask, well, what can you do now? Well, we gonna turn this 4 bedroom into a 8 bedroom, and we gonna start putting people in these rooms, and
Mm.
we gonna whether it be drug abusers, whether it be people that have HIV and AIDS, whether it be people that are homosexual that can't, go stay with their families anymore, or
Yeah.
whatever. But
Wow.
there's funding for these types of programs. We just have to build them.
Yeah.
And so yeah, don't sell grandma's house. Figure out how you can make money with using grandma's house.
Right.
That's what you want to do. See,
And that.
we're thinking of the quick hit. We want that $200,000 a pocket so we can go blow that shit tomorrow. Excuse my French. But we want to go blow that tomorrow. We're not looking at how we're going to maintain that $200,000, that $800,000, that $1 million. We're not realizing how we're going to maintain that. We're gonna have a hell of a summer,
Mhm.
and that's gonna be it.
Yeah, Dre. Awesome minds think alike, because that's what I was saying before you came in. Like, we need to talk. We need to, and that's what Stop Selling Grandma's House is too, right? So we were telling, as we told you before, it's not only about talking about the problem, but the solution as well, and showing how you can maximize by holding on to the property, maximize by keeping it in the family, and being able to leverage that and garner, you know, capital, or be able to actually, and it's an accolade. Like I was saying earlier, to have property in California is a huge feat. You know what I mean? Like,
it ain't easy, bro. It ain't easy.
yeah, I'm in the South, and there's people pulling out their equity and coming here and buying building homes. You know what I mean? So we're definitely going to be tapped in with you the whole way through. And beyond. I would love to, and we'll talk about this offline, to have your grandma feature, God willing, because that's amazing.
I know. I was thinking that too. Like, I would love to talk to you. You have so much knowledge. But thank you so much, Andre, Mr. Councilman Andre Spicer, aka Hub City Dre. Where can people find you if they want to get to know more about you and your initiative and what you're doing for the city of Compton?
Man, I'm on all social media platforms. I am Hub City Dre and Andre Spicer District 2. Or you can just, right now, I'm Googleable.
SEO.
So, you know what I mean? So tap in with your boy. You can find me anywhere. No, but bro, I mean, just the easiest way to get to me is really email and social media. I'm always available. I'm an open book. I'm very transparent and forthcoming with any information I might have. So
yeah.
And just looking to build our community, man. So I'm easy to talk to.
Yeah, congrats on everything, man. If like hitting the pavement was a person, you've always advocated for the Hub. Always. So it's just a beautiful thing to see how far you've came and you know, continue to go. So we'll definitely be tapped in with you. Thank you. There to everybody who tuned in. There's people like leaving comments and stuff. We appreciate you. I gotta personally shout out Catherine.
The GOAT behind the scenes.
She's amazing.
Shy is manning the Instagram stream as well, which but thank you so much, and everybody who's watching, please make sure you guys are heading over to our Kickstarter to support this initiative. This is not just about the documentary. We're going to be working with people such as Councilman Spicer to try to come up with resources to put out there to the public so that you don't have to sell grandma's house, you don't have to let go of the legacy, you don't have to suffer this modern day colonization that we're experiencing in our urban communities that we love and cherish. And we're gonna do a real block party in real life, in person, in Compton.
Let's do that, man. Don't play. I set it up.
We will do it. We go offline, and it's coming. It's coming soon because we need to put this out there. So thank you again so much. You dropped gems. I didn't know that's what Hub City meant. I learned today. Through, I love to hear it.
It has nothing to do with the hubcap.
To know. I'm getting text messages from different people running for office and things too. So definitely, you guys, your local elections matter. You know, local elections are coming up. So I'm literally getting text messages right now from James McKeever.
Man, look, hey, those local elections are the most important elections. I could not tell you how important those elections are. Y'all know that they told me I lost by 1 vote last year, and I raised hell. Like, I did not lose by 1 vote, man. We had to do an investigation. We got people arrested for voter fraud and bribery, and a year later, we got appointed by a judge to the seat after proving voter fraud, man. So again, they told me I lost by 1 vote. That's local elections, y'all. This is for real, man. This changes things. This changes communities. This changes generations.
It's not even out too. You
and Dre, don't you give nobody else that documentary. We're gonna do that documentary, okay?
Oh yeah.
We're doing that documentary.
Let's do it. I'm with you.
We'll talk about that. But yes, but thank you so much. We're gonna let you go. Thank you, KS, and everybody who tuned in. We're gonna be doing this every Wednesday, bringing on more dope people to talk about why we should stop selling grandma's house and how we can come up with these resources to come together and really build as a community. So God bless you all. Love you all. Thank you and good night.
Thank you for sharing your platform. Have a good one.
Thank you, Dre. Appreciate you so much. Thanks, Sheree.